If you live in a dry climate, then you probably understand the value of a good working swamp cooler or evaporative cooler. I have here a Bonaire, I guess it's now called a Durango. My dad installed it in around 2004, and it's faithfully served us for quite a while, almost 20 years. No, almost 10 years now. And I can't do math. So, unfortunately, just recently we had a heat wave, and the thing started blowing hot on me. And when I took it apart and did a little troubleshooting, I realized that the water pump wasn't pumping water anymore. And so I had to tear it all apart and get a replacement pump. So we're going to install that today. I'll show you how to do that. And let's get going. So get yourself a good sun hat that builds confidence, and let's roll. So I'll explain in more detail once the thing is actually reassembled, but basically the pump sits in here, and there's a water line that feeds it from a hose bib, and that comes in here, and there's a little floater valve, so this little reservoir down below fills with water. The pump sits in here and sucks water up from the reservoir up this tube here, and then there's a hose unit on the top that drips water down a substrate, and I'll show you that in a moment, which when the fan, which sits into this recess here, pulls air in from outside, it runs over the water-soaked pads, and that uses the evaporative effect to cool down the air. So the air inside is a little bit cooler, a little bit adds to the humidity. Unfortunately, it does not really work in places where the humidity is already pretty high, so sorry for all you southerners out there, but for people in the west, and especially the southwest, you probably live by these things. It was pretty dang dirty when I opened this up, so I gave it a good cleaning, but you can even see in here there's still a bit of mineral deposits from the water, and we got not really hard water, but there is a little bit of lime and calcium in the water here, so it kind of cakes on, and I think that's probably what did my pump in. So this is the fan unit right here, and I just set it over to the side, but it's still connected by a bunch of wires, so I didn't want to mess with that. And this is what the pump looks like, and there's a little basket here that helps prevent things from getting sucked up into it, but the pump just has a little shaft that rotates, and there's an impeller in here that sucks the water up and just shoots it right in here, and that goes up through the hose. And as you can see, there's a bit of stuff caked on here. That doesn't sound too good. It's you know, I thought maybe if I take it apart I might be able to salvage it, but I just figured why not just go for broke and get a new one altogether. Direct from Bonaire, I think the pump cost, I think the pump might have been around 60 or 70 bucks direct, and I ended up getting a new set of pads, since those were also in pretty rough shape after nearly 20 years of continuous operation. So I'll show you how to replace those as well, because why the hell not? All right. So first things first, I'm just going to take a quick look over here at this this panel. Looks like something came loose, but we're gonna disconnect the old pump and pull this cable, which is routed around a fan housing. And that runs there. And once we get that all routed and everything, then we should be able to just go ahead and rewire it, and then reassemble the whole unit. Also, just as a little bit of extra maintenance, since I had this thing up and open, I went ahead and I took a little spout oil and squirted it down at the base of the shaft of the fan. And you can see here, I mean, I wiped this down pretty good, but there's still a significant amount of buildup from years of use. And unfortunately, the old Durango, this whole housing face on the inside actually can't be removed, so I can't take the grill off and clean it separately. So I had to come in here with a spray bottle, a little bit of cleaner agent, and a toothbrush to really get at all the stuff, and it was pretty dang nasty. I had a little bucket to catch the water coming off of it, and it was nearly pitch black. So just as a good idea to take it apart every now and then, give it a good cleaning, because otherwise all that stuff is just blown into your house. Sorry, the cable's a little tight here, so it's kind of hard to pull this to give you a better look, but it looks like this is actually the ground for the pump that came loose, and that probably goes in right here next to this other ground, which is probably for the fan. I'm just going to pull that out. And then we've got this green wire going over on this side, and this white wire going over on this side, and there's just a little split on here, and these are all just on these easy fittings. So interesting. Oh, you know what, let me get some needle nose pliers to make that a little easier to bring off. Yeah, as you can see, these guys, they share a lead. So there's just a little plate that they both went into. So I'm going to disconnect the pump. Like that. And then this guy, see if I can get it off without, no, that came loose too. Okay, so those just need to go back on that one lead. So now the pump is disconnected. I hope that wasn't blurry. Now we're back over. Now we're back over here. We're just gonna fish this cable out. All right. There's the old pump. There's also these this L bracket on some retainer clips, and this guy is what holds the pump in place. So we're going to remove that before we finish assembling. So let's grab the other pump. All nice and shiny. Let's open up this cable here. And this pump is for a newer unit, but it should work because it looks like it's the exact same assembly. Although it already looks like it's built a little nicer. These are much sturdier leads. One, two, and three. Okay. Oh man, this cable is significantly thicker than the original, so hopefully that's not going to cause an issue. We need just enough cable to reach that control box, so don't overroute it. I might actually need to come in here and snip out a little bit more to make room for this, because that is quite a bit thicker. I thought better of it and decided I'd just use a drill bit instead, so I didn't want to accidentally cut anything that I didn't want to. And let's see, it doesn't need to be too big, but that should do. It up a little. Just need to get enough. Really not too much. I'm gonna open that up just slightly. Okay. holds that in nice and gentle like. Now for some reason there's a tiny bit extra down in here, but it should be good. Got a call coming in? Unavailable. Nope. Okay, let's wire this back up. So we got our control panel back over here. We're just gonna wire these guys back up to where they went, and then we're gonna reattach these to these leads here, and should be pretty simple. White to white. Green to green. Also, make sure that you got this thing unplugged before you start messing around with the electricals. And I think I just pop back on there. Oh, that was nice and easy. Merciful. And then ground right back in there. All right, now you can see we got our greens, we got our whites, and our ground is back in place. Fortunately, they're all kind of marked and pretty straightforward, so hard to mess this one up. The hard bit is going to be reassembling this without a helping hand, so wish me luck. So the next heavy lift is going to be moving the whole fan housing back into place, and then also moving this control panel back into its housing and making sure that all the cables are routed and not getting pinched by anything. So this is going to be kind of tricky because of the way that the cables all are, but I've moved my pump down over here. I've got a little shelf to bring this onto. I'm going to bring this up here, squeeze it through. That's good enough. We should be able to get working on here. So we get our little housing unit. Let's see where this comes from. This is going to be actually in this upper corner here. So okay, so this just clips back into place, but oh, okay, the cables all come down here. So we're just going to pull that in a little bit more, so there's no exposed nonsense. A little more slack in this. That goes into the side, and then this guy is actually going to come up through the bottom because there's a little spot for it here. So let's just route that out a little. Don't forget to hydrate. I'm hydrating with coffee. Probably not the best idea, but that's what I got. Well, that popped right off. It's only held in place with a little screw and a washer anyways, and that slides right in, so that's all fine. Let's put that back in there. So it's going to come up like that. Slide that back into place. rest of this just presses right back in here. And there's only those two spots, so all the cables need to fit those two. You just gotta make sure that those tabs don't get in the way. Sweet! Okay, so that's all back. This is gonna pull down. Kind of want to tighten this guy a little bit, just to make sure that that doesn't go anywhere. Alright, now I'm going to take this whole unit, I'm going to have to turn it to get this control panel in that upper corner and slide this housing unit right back into place. So there's also just a little cord, kind of flange or something here that just clips back together, and I just shoved this back into place to make sure that it wasn't going to flop around or get in the way. I'm going to tighten down that little retention clip. Make sure that it doesn't move around too much. Hello, bee. No water in there. Not yet. Okay. Now the trick. Routing all the cables. Let's see if I can get this off. I'm going to push that cable down there. That way it's out of the way, because this whole part of it, this fits perfectly into this recess. So if you have cables out and around, they're going to get scraped against things. You really don't want that. A little extra in there. All right. Now this cable, so bring this whole unit around here. And when I bring this up, it's not actually too heavy, so don't be too intimidated by that. I'm just making sure that power cable goes down, stays out of the way. This guy's gonna go here. Nice. So that's good. That's not gonna get hung up or anything. It should stay out. Quite all the way. Let's see if there's any extra cable maybe getting hung up, or that should be okay. That side looks good. This up so that I don't go on it. Get back over there. There we go. There it is. All right. Fan unit's back in place. Now, okay, so next step. Let's go ahead and screw these guys back in. Holy moly, these got hot in the sun. I'm gonna give this a wipe down too, because some of that lubricant oil dripped down into the housing, and I want this as clean as possible. But you open up an old evaporative cooler, and it's gonna look way worse than this. You're gonna see all kinds of buildup. I had some spider webs in the cavities here, and a lot of fun stuff. And since this is all screwed into plastic, I don't necessarily recommend using power tools for this operation. These are really short screws. It's not that big of a deal. But it is hot, so you don't want to move too slowly. Back up here. Okay, fan housing back in place. Let's give this a wipe down, install the pump, and then we redo the pads. Just a little degreaser, get that oil out of there. And there apparently is some cleaning agents that you can get that'll help you break down the mineral deposits from the water. I was thinking CLR, but I didn't have any on hand, and I didn't want to place a special order, so I just wiped it down as best I could. Used a little elbow grease to kind of chip off the larger deposits, and looks good enough for me. I think it'll work just fine. Now these are the instructions that came with the pump, and it came with a little adapter clip because it looks like the output barb on the pump is 3/4 inch, and actually the hose on here, it looks like it's about 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna have to use this to expand that hose just a little bit. And what's funny is that the instructions actually say that you should be able to go straight to the existing hose from the pump for products older than 2017, but I don't think they bet on me having a swamp cooler from 2004. That looks pretty good. So we got a couple little clamps. We're just gonna throw that on there. Give that a little squeeze. That should be good. Oh, and this goes on to the pump itself, so that's gonna look like that. Let's go ahead and slide that on. Work that in, slip it over the barb, get it nice and tight. That's looking good. And the pump sits right in here. Take this clamp, put it on there. Slip that over here. Clippity clip. And that's looking pretty good. So we're going to repurpose the basket. Oh crap. Of course I thought I acted quicker than my brain. Before you install, get that basket on. Basket doesn't quite fit perfectly, but that will work. Put that back in place. Get back on here. Oh. Okay. Goes in there. Okay, there we go. And then there's a little clip back there that plastic bit goes on. Now it's time for that hill bracket. I'm just pushing a little bit of this extra cable in here so it stays out of the way. That's looking pretty good. All right, let's get these clips off here, and then we'll be able to put this bracket in place and reassemble the unit. Now I've got a really great little car kit that's designed to remove trim trim from a vehicle, but unfortunately I can't find it, so I'm just trying to pry this up with a rigid blade here. Ugh. There we go, popped it out. Got that guy. That goes right back in place. And if you're gonna leave this thing, if you're gonna leave something disassembled for a while, or it's gonna be in pieces, you gotta track your hardware. So personally, I like to kind of like screw it lightly back in place so it's exactly where it came from. That makes it a little bit easier. Because, you know, if you just got a little dish of random screws lying around, then you might be playing more of a puzzle game than you bargained for. Yeah, kind of an annoying element to this design is that there's really only one little drainage hole, and that's over here, and that's for the extra runoff. You can see that there's a little T connection on this tube. That's the feeder tube. This T connection runs off, so if there's ever any excess water coming in through the system, it's going to just go ahead and drain out through this plug down here, and there's a little plug. And I removed it to make it easier for me to drain this guy, because I was hitting this with a power washer and trying to get all the crud that was sitting in the bottom of this reservoir, because it gets pretty nasty when you think about it. You know, that stuff isn't going into your system because it's not being pulled in past this basket, but you are pulling water that's been marinating in that stuff, and that just seemed kind of gross to me. So I'm going to take this little clip back here, screw this back on. And that's pretty much, that whole part of the unit is done. So now onto the dirty part, and that's the pads. So the evaporative pads, they can take a few different shapes, but this style is kind of looks like a corrugated cardboard, except it's not quite normal cardboard. And if you look at it, you can't actually see through it unless if you look at a certain angle. And yeah, these are really old pads, and they're kind of grody looking. Especially on the outside, it's going to collect stuff that it's trying to suck into the system. It's going to look kind of nasty. It might get hit by rain or snow or whatever. And these ones might have gotten a little oversaturated at some point when the pump was running, but the fan might not have been. The insides don't look quite as bad. As you can see here, this is still looking pretty good. But when they get all clogged up and smashed, it makes everything less efficient. It draws more power, and it doesn't cool as well. So always a good idea to change your pads. I don't know what the recommended lifespan of these things is, but it's probably somewhere around 4 or 5 years, and we went well past that. So I figured it was time for an upgrade. I've already removed all the retaining clips from these guys, so this should come right out. There we go. And you can see the back of it, gross. Inside, doesn't look too bad, but that's pretty old and brittle, and a moth just flew out of it, so I think it was a good idea to change them. And I'm going to power wash this guy because this is looking pretty nasty too, so we'll clean this off, and then we'll get down to the business of reinstalling the new pads. tell which size I did already. Have you hugged your pressure washer today? All right, let's get those new pads on. So again, new versus old, you can see quite a difference. Even on the back side, the old one has seen better days. So we're gonna put these pads in place, and hopefully that'll be all we need. So we're going to start with the big pad because that kind of sets the stage. Dropping retaining clips everywhere. Put those back in there. I'm pissed off a little bit because this thing shipped to me and this pad was already starting to come apart. So that's kind of annoying, but it should all still go back in. Oh gosh. Don't want to break it any more than it already is. This doesn't inspire confidence, but I think I gotta push it. Okay. That's a little something. Okay. Yeah, this old unit had more of a bolt system on here, so I'm not entirely sure if there's a way to keep that, but these guys did use the retaining clips, so we're going to use these dealies. And then on the inside, you got these kind of washers. So I think you just find where the divot's at. Goes in like that. Well, that's well made. Just make sure to push directly back against this because it's very fragile this way. that's the whole pad replacement done. Pretty low tech. So all that's left is to fill this guy back up and give her a test run. It's getting pretty hot, so I'm about ready to be done. Let's get those little spider webs they got in there. Okay. Alright, we got a little needle orb on here. I'm probably going to have to replace this fitting at some point because it drips a little bit, but this should be fine for now. And I had this overfill go down into a little bucket, so if any critters wanted to have a drink, then they can. Put some corks in there in case some bees or what have you want to land and have a little sip. So this thing's going to fill up, and then we'll be ready for a test run as soon as we install the pads. Let's take a closer look. So you can see the floater valve switch. When that comes up all the way, that's going to stop the flow. That's going to fill up for a little while. There's the overflow. So if this thing does fill up too much, it'll actually just siphon right out of that hole here. And then we got the pump, and that's going to pump up into here, all the way up. This is going to attach at the top to a barb on the pad housing, and there's a little dripper hose that runs across the top of this thing. It's going to drip water down onto the pads, saturate those, and then the fan pulls the air through. Really simple, but very effective cooling device when it works. Well, the water stopped filling up. We're going to go ahead and put the pads back on and give her a test run. Just a little wipe down, got a little soot on it. We got to make sure that this hose connects properly. That should be good enough for government work. Let's go inside. All looks good in here. And a while back, the little D-fitting on our on the control knob got a little crack in it, so every time we turn it, it wouldn't hold on to it. So for a while, we were just using the old pliers to turn this on, but since I was ordering direct from the manufacturer, I got a replacement. It's right there. Ooh, this looks good. Let's plug her in. That's interesting. Now it sounds like the pump is going, but I don't think that should be happening when the whole unit is off. At the very least, it's working, but there's a chance I might have gotten one of the electricals wrong, in which case I'm going to have to tear this apart and redo it. But for the meanwhile, I'm going to enjoy this. Now these pads are treated with formaldehyde or something, so you might need to give it a little time before that new car smell goes away. that's definitely blowing colder than outside. So I'm gonna take that as a win. And at least for the meanwhile, I'll just have to disconnect the power in order to turn the pump off. Well, I'm gonna probably have to troubleshoot this, but we'll call it there for the day. And that's how you screw something up. Go out there and get dirty. So I guess my confidence building hat was actually my Dunning-Kruger hat, so I had to change it for my dunce cap, but positive vibes only, guys. So I think I just put the black hot wire into the wrong place for this to work correctly, and that's why the pump was coming on as soon as I plugged the dang thing in. So let me make sure that's coming from there. So I think the new Durango units are a little bit, have a different thing, but basically I put this into, there were only 2 leads, I took a chance and I think I got the wrong one. So this probably should go into the switch up here instead. And let's just plug this back into here. Okay. Yeah, so actually I found a wiring diagram on the fan housing. Take a look at this. So this little guy right here tells me exactly what I did wrong, because the black wire from the pump should be going to the number 3 terminal on the control unit. So I had accidentally plugged it into an always on circuit, and so that's why when I plugged it in, it turned the pump on without me touching the switch. So this should hopefully take care of things. And now you see that the black wire, which is the one without the boot, is plugged into the number 3. The number 3 terminal on the switch. So, fortunately, it was an easy fix. Hopefully. Positive vibes, guys. Positive vibes. Just take that a little bit. Okay. You can go back to your home now. I'm also not a huge fan. Some of the material from the new pads kind of broke off into here, so I actually am going to clean this out because that's kind of nasty looking. Again, probably not super necessary, but makes me feel better. That's nice and good. That's much better. No kinks in that line. No kink shaming. All right, let's get this sucker back on. hardest part. Just getting this stupid hose reconnected. Oh yeah. That's well fitted. Okay. Now, time for the grand finale. So if all this works as planned, when I plug it in, nothing should turn on until I turn this knob. So far so good. Here we go. I think we have liftoff. So I'm just going to turn off the fan. You can hear the water running. I think we got it. Okay, you guys. Well, I hope this was helpful. If not, a total waste of time for everyone but me. But at least now I'm not going to sweat my ass off in the next heat wave, which is coming this weekend. So stay cool out there, fellas. And don't forget to break stuff.